Tell me about the worst date you've ever been on. Here's mine. 2 years ago, I went out with a pilot from Bumble. When I got there, he said, I hope you didn't take you too long to get here. I said, no, 15 minutes. I walked. He said, good, because I don't date people who live more than a mile from me. He then asked the hostess for a table for two and said, you have to eat with me, even though he knew I had already eaten. He proceeds to force me to pick out an appetizer, an entree, and a dessert. We are there for 2 hours. I am barely eating because, again, I have already eaten, which he shames me for, and then asks me to split the bill. At that point, I wanted to get out of there, so I just did it. We're putting on our coats. It's February, by the way. He pulls on black leather gloves and says, these are my murder gloves. He then insists on walking me home, meaning he continues to walk next to me even though I continue to ask him not to. At one point, I tried to turn on a street that wasn't mine, and he said, we haven't walked 15 minutes yet. This isn't where you live. There's a doorman building next to my building, and I walked in with a big smile on my face and said, this man outside is stalking me. Please pretend I live here. And this has been today's episode of Things Women Do to Avoid a Confrontation That Might Lead to Murder.
A few years ago, I went out on a date with a guy who was introduced to me by a mutual friend, slash my coworker. And he was really nice to me, said all the right things, and he's like, I'll let you choose for our first date where we go, and named off 3 restaurants. And I was like, well, 2 of these aren't really first date material, so I picked the third one, which was local, nice-ish restaurant. And I was like, we'll go here. And so he's like, okay, but I need to go to the gym first. And I was like, that's fine, I can understand that. He shows up to the date in his gym clothes. What the fuck? No effort, nothing. Shows up to the date in his gym clothes. At the end of the date, he's like, hey, I left my wallet at home. Can you spot dinner? What the fuck?
The worst date I ever fucking been on. You ready for this? So I pick up this girl from Jersey, right? Yeah, I know, it's always fucking Jersey. I'm like, baby, we're gonna go to this Italian restaurant. And she goes to me, oh my God, my uncle owns it. I'm like, oh really? Okay. I was like, damn, maybe we'll get a little fucking free cheesecake or something at the end. So we walk in and the hostess knows her apparently. It's some girl. And I found out it was her cousin. So we walk in, the uncle seats us. I didn't even know it was her fucking uncle. So now I want to order my appetizers. She did not tell me that was her uncle. And I have this guy over my head talking to me, asking me 1,001 personal questions. Like, who the fuck are you? So at the end he goes, yeah, I'm Amy's uncle. I'm like, oh shit, you're her uncle. Oh, nice to meet you, sir. You know, I felt bad. At this point, I was just so turned off. I'm like, yo, what is this? What's going on here? You know, I don't even know this girl like that. And the worst part is, he's like, hey, let me take a photo of you two. I want to send it to Christina, which is her mother.
Tell me a first date story when you realized they were not getting another date. I'll go first. So we met on a dating app because where the fuck else am I going to meet anybody? Anyways, went to the movies and she's like, I'll pick. And I'm like, I'll pay. This girl, Stephanie, picks a 2.5-hour drama movie. I didn't know I was gonna listen to you chew food for 2.5 hours. Just close your mouth when you chew, Stephanie. Last straw was us going to dinner afterwards and her complaining about her chicken Caesar salad to me, to the waiter, to the people around us, and I love Caesar salad. Tell me a first date story when you realized they were not getting another date.
Every time I think about this, I just get so angry all over again because when I tell you, it took me months to agree to go out with this guy. I should have just listened to my intuition, but persistence. And I was just like, you know what? Okay, let's give him a chance. First of all, I didn't even have my phone out at all, but when the food comes out, he says, can you not post this, by the way? Because we had a mutual friend, and he was like, I don't want her to see it because she had a thing for me at one point. No, she didn't. Second thing, he says, so what time do you need to be home? I told him, I don't want to be out past this time, whatever. And he goes like, okay, good. Because my dad needs me after this. And I can't just be out here hanging out. All right. And then the last thing was his friend calls him, says he needs something from his car. And it turned into a whole episode of this whole transaction. He needs to come, he needs to unlock, do whatever. And I felt like I was interrupting something. He forgot I was there.
All right. Tell me the worst date you've ever had. I'll go first. I was with this guy and we were having drinks in a bar and he just starts going on about Trump and Trump's misunderstood and his policies are great. And then he says, Australia needs a border wall. A border wall. We're an island. But I'm so polite that I didn't want to leave because I was afraid that I'd hurt the bigot's feelings. I'm so polite. I got in an Uber once and the driver was like, oh, I'm having a bit of a rough day. And I was like, oh, do you want me to drive? What can I say? I'm a hero. No, I'm an idiot. Anyway, we're walking home and he's like, oh, this is my street. And I'm like, okay, bye. And he's like, but you owe me sex. And he starts going through Grindr, trying to get the receipts of where I've apparently committed to having sex. And he was like, well, this is the problem. This is why Australia needs a border wall. Do you know when you meet those people, you're like, how do you figure out how to use a toothbrush? I still think about that to this day. I've got so many terrible date stories, though. If you want to hear more, comment below and let me know. Because they're so bad. So bad. All right, tell me the worst date you've ever had.
So I was in my 20s, and I had a couple of dates, maybe 3 or 4 dates with this guy, and we had not been anywhere near the bedroom or even talked about what we wanted to do in the bedroom, nothing. I had a little small dinner party. He came with all my friends, and we're all getting our food, and out of nowhere, he tells everybody that he's a top. Okay, all right, not that there's anything wrong with that, but now everyone's thinking, well, I must be a bottom, and we probably were in the bedroom. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But I'm not a bottom. I'm a side. So I didn't know what to do. Do I explain myself? Do I clear the air? Do I tell the group? What do you think I did? Nothing. I just let it be there like a fart in church.
These make me cringe. And this is making my eyeballs sweaty before I even think about it. I've got 2. No, 3. Comment part 2 if you want one about cheating. Yes, at the date. This one was actually with my current boyfriend. We've only met once. We're about to go for our first ever date. And he meets me after work, so I already stink. And he was waiting outside my work and I just felt really embarrassed. So I went and told him to meet me by Tesco's instead. Because all my workmates were like trying to find him and find which one it was. And I was trying to work and they're like, which one? Is it him? Is it him? Is it that guy? So I meet him and we walk to the place where we're going to have the date. We go up to the counter, whether it's called bar, just grabbing the drink. And it's probably like 4 o'clock. He's like, yeah, can I have a Copperberg? And I'm like, oh yeah, can I have a Diet Coke? And then they're like, we have some ID please. I got kicked out of the bar for my first date for a Diet Coke. For a freaking Diet Coke! It was 4 o'clock in the afternoon! That's it.
Tell me about the worst date you've ever been on.
So, like 5 or 6 years ago, I went on a date with a guy. And he picked me up. He was 20 minutes late. We were supposed to go to sushi. But once he picked me up, he was like, where can we watch the game? And I was like, what game? And he's like, basketball's on. I really want to watch basketball. And I was like, okay, let's go to World of Beer. So we go to World of Beer. We sit down. He's like, I already ate, so order whatever you want. And he also told me he's not really a drinker. And then as I order my flatbread and 1 drink, he orders 2 vodka Red Bulls, 2 double pickle shots, whatever they're called, and proceeds to get hammered. So then he's like, oh, let's go to this other bar. Now, this other bar was closer to my house, so I was like, let's do that because I'll be closer. And we get there. He gets plastered drunk, watching the game, not paying attention to me whatsoever. And I was like, hey, I think I'm going to go home. And he stops and looks at me and goes, you're really going to let me pay for all your food and drinks and not take me home with you? Like for part 2.
Part 2. So at this point, I look at this man and I was like, excuse me? Are you telling me that 1 drink and 1 flatbread is like your key to my apartment? Like, no, that's not how this works at all. I was like, I'm going home. You've been like watching the game all night. You're not paying attention to me. You don't care about this date. You just want to get lucky. And it's very clear with the way you talk to me. I was like, no. And he's like, no. That's not how I meant it at all. That's not how I meant it at all. Like, I've had too much to drink tonight and I'm so drunk. Are you really going to let me drive home drunk? Like, let me just sleep on your couch. You know, I swear I'll just stay on your couch. And I was like, no, that's not happening. Like, I'm going home alone. So then he was like, just stay for 1 more drink. And I was like, all right, I'm going to go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. Security guard had seen this whole thing. So the security guard lets me out the back door. I book it home. And this man, it took him 2 hours to realize I was gone.
Tell me about the worst date you've ever been on.
It's date number 5. He offers to make dinner. And I'm thinking that things are going pretty well. We're talking every single day. I'm even thinking tonight might be the night. You know what I mean? Like shower, shave, all that good stuff. I'm almost ready to leave. He texts me asking if there's anything special that I want to drink. He's picking up some champagne and I'm like, oh, you fancy. But then he texts me asking if I can bring my camera, my nice camera. Why? It's not what you're thinking. No, then he proceeds to say, well, I'm trying out for The Bachelorette and I want to have some professional photos. What? Oh my God, you're so funny. Get in my car, head to his place. I get out of the car, he greets me, gives me a big kiss. He's got a bouquet of flowers. We start walking to the front door and then he goes, but wait, where's your camera? Turns out he was not kidding. Boy really did want to try out for The Bachelorette and even made it on the show, but I turned right back around into my car and went home.